is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video here at TCH in Dallas. We got a live stream. It's going to be me, Sam, Queen of Felt, a bunch of other degenerates. It's a $2,000 buy-in, but then it gets match to stack. I brought 15K with me. Let's see if we can get all that on the table, run it up. If you guys are new, make sure to drop a subscribe. Let's get into the hands. Let's go. All right, getting right into it. It's a 2-5-10. I'm in for $2,000. The first hand of the night, I look down at the bullets, pocket aces, go figure, and we see a raise from Habib in the small blind up to 175. Obviously, I'm coming in for a 3-bet. I don't want to go too large because Habib is raising with a pretty wide range. Want to keep all that in position and see a flop. I decided to make it $400. He obviously snap calls with his deuces. We're off to a flop which comes 6-4-3 with 2 spades. I'm thinking about how much I'm going to bet on this flop, and that goes out the window when Habib decides to bet into me for $1,000. So now I look down at his stack. He has around $430 more if I jam it all in. That's what I decided to do. I have aces. I don't have a spade in my hand, so I want to charge against all those draws and made hands. I have the bullets. I'm getting it in here, and I raise all in for $1,400. Now I don't get a snap call from Habib, which is great news, but after checking his cards one more time, he decides ultimately to put in the money. After all, it's only another $430. You can see he has 1% chance to win the hand, but don't tell him that. He puts in the call, and we are going off to a runout. The turn comes the 9 of diamonds, and the river card comes the 10 of diamonds. Just like that, we are scooping in that nearly $4,000 pot to start the session off the right way. $4,000 coming my way, and if you guys want some run good in your life, that Pocket Sevens hat is available to purchase. There's only around 20 of them left, and the link is down in the description below. All right, next hand here, I look down at Ace-Jack offsuit from the +2, and I raise it up to $50. We get called by a few players, and by a few, I mean pretty much half the table. And just like that, we are going off to a flop 5 ways, which comes Ace-5-3 with 2 spades. Now, multi-way, you're definitely going to be wanting to do more checking than betting. It's just likely that someone has a hand like Deuce-4, maybe someone has 3s, 5s, Ace-3, Ace-5. You want to do a lot of checking, let the opponents tell the strength of their hand, and then go from there. It is good to note that I do in fact have the Jack of Spades in my hand, which could help me in case we back into a flush. So for a lot of those reasons, I decided to start with a check. You can see that Daily Double Up here has 10-4 of spades. So he has a lot of good turn cards that he can see, any spade, any deuce. And of course he could go runner, 10-4 or 4-4. When he bets out for $150, I think it's not just a snap call. I think we also could debate going for a raise and just finding out where we're at, getting value from all the draws. But instead, I just put in the call, which I also don't hate as well. But what I do hate is the turn card, which comes the deuce of hearts. He now turns the straight. When I check the flop, I'm not going to be leading out on this turn. I decide to check it over to him once again. And into the pot, he decides to take a stab for $375. It's an interesting size bet. It's nearly 2/3. Should I be raising here? I think there's some arguments that you could be, but I decide just to put in the call and see what the river card brings in, which comes the 9 of diamonds. Logic would say check over to him for a 3rd time, but sometimes I don't think with logic. I decide to bet out for $150. I'm just joking, you guys. There is a small amount of thought process here with this. It's a blocker bet, and also if I get raised, it puts me in a weird spot, and I can pretty easily just get away from it. It also sets my price, right? So if I bet out for $150, he raises me to $800 or $900. I easily just get away from it. But if I check, and now he bets like $700 or $800, I'm in a weird spot where I pretty much have to call it off. So I get a little bit of value from worse, I protect my hand from better, and I decide to bet out for $150, and look at that. He decides not just to put in the call, he's going to raise me up and make it a little bit more expensive if I want to continue, and he decides on a size of $800. Now in the moment, I'm thinking, what is he raising me with here? Hands that I'm beating could be a missed flush draw, maybe a hand like 5-6 with a spade in it. I mean, it's just not many hands that he's going to want to be raising on this river. I block bet small to get away from it when he raised, so let's stick to the plan, Wolfgang. Sure enough, I make a disciplined fold. Folding top pair when you have an ace in your hand is never an easy fold, but luckily I made the right decision here and saved myself another $650. Alright, so here's the deal. The video is not over yet. We didn't have enough hands to make a complete vlog. I wanted to make it good for you guys, so made my way the next day. Today is tomorrow. and we made our way across town, Dallas, to Poker House. We are going to play a 5-5, match the stack, pretty much the same blinds as yesterday, get some more hands for you guys. The lineup is similar. We got Sam, Queen of Felt. This time we got the German Moneymaker and a bunch of other fun degenerates. Let's get right into the stream. Let's go!
Alexander Wolfgang in the 1 seat, content creator as well, plays poker, been playing poker for 10 years. Some of these guys aren't even old enough to play as many years as they've been playing. Like, I don't get it.
All right, we're over at Poker House now. I looked down at the ladies with around 4,400 in my stack. I'm on the dealer button and I decide to raise it up to $100. Moneymaker's in the small blind, and he's a fellow German, but he was born in Germany. What does that mean? He's probably a little bit more GTO, a little bit more study than I am. And one thing you don't expect is Moneymaker to put in the flat call out of the small blind with a strong hand like tens. I think like 99% of the time he should be 3-betting me here, somewhere to the tune of $350 to $400. Instead though, he puts in the sneaky flat call for $95 more, and that brings OFC in as well with the pocket fives. We are going 3 ways in position to a flop. We see a gross board of 7-5 deuce with 2 spades. I say gross not because in the moment I thought it was, because now obviously I can see that he has middle set. Pocket fives, flop middle set, against 2 overpairs for that being, and we never expect Moneymaker to have tens in the small blind. He decides to check. OFC checks his set over to me, and of course I'm going to go for a bet with my queens. A lot of hands to get value from, a lot of hands to protect my hand against. It should be good here a large portion of the time, and I bet out for $150. Moneymaker now decides to go for the check raise up to $450. At this point, he's representing hands like ace-5, pocket 5, 7s, and deuces. He could also have hands like 6-8 and 6-4. So I'm not going to be folding right away to Moneymaker's raise, but now some alarm bells are going off when OFC decides to flat call the 450. Flat calling the 450 here is pretty indicative of a straight draw or a flush draw. So for that reason, I could be putting in a raise here. Luckily for me though, I decide just to flat call. Alarm bells went off in my head. I'm going to play this one slow. I put in the call and we're off to the turn, which comes the 8 of diamonds. After check raising the flop and getting 2 calls, Moneymaker decides wisely to slow down and check. OFC is not letting this get checked over to me. I think I would have gone for a bet, but he decides to bet out for $1,500, a nearly pot-sized bet, and the action's on me. I'm in a really tough spot here because a nearly pot-sized bet is super strong. You could have 2 pairs, sets, and of course you could have a bunch of draws. But in between him and Moneymaker now is a weird spot to be in. For instance, if I just flat call, Moneymaker can rip it, and now I'm committed to my stack. If I raise and go all in, Moneymaker's decision is super easy. He can just get it in with the nuts and fold when he doesn't have the nuts. So yeah, weird spot for me, but ultimately I decide to make a high-level fold here, and I get rid of my ladies. They weren't going to cut it for me in this hand. Surprisingly, Moneymaker folds as well. He folds the overpair. OFC gets a minimum value there, I feel like, and takes down that pot, and we avoided a disaster. All right, moving right along, I'm in the cutoff this time with 4K in my stack, and I look down at ace-king offsuit, and I decide to raise it up. After Moneymaker wisely folds the 7 deuce, you can see that Carlos also has the 7 deuce. He's not going to play that when the Queen of Felt decides to 3-bet me to $200. Now, here from the cutoff, when I raise and get 3-bet out of the blinds, I need to be doing a lot of 4-betting. However, here's the thing. The Queen of Felt knows what kind of a player I am, so if I 4-bet here, she pretty easily could get away from a lot of worse hands. King-Queen suited probably would be a flat call, but a lot of other borderline hands she would just fold. So I want to keep those in. I want to go heads up in position to a flop. For that reason, I decide just to flat call here, play this hand slow, and let's see a king-high board. Ooh, I called it. The board came king 3-3 with 2 spades. Ace of spades in my hand. We are loving life. The Queen of Felt loves it too. She has a king. We are setting ourselves up nicely here for a cooler situation. She bets out for $100. I don't really think there's any point in raising. I have the ace of spades in my hand. It's a pretty dry board except for those flush draws, so I decide just to put in the flat call, and we see the worst card in the deck, the King of Hearts. I say the worst card because now we both have a boat, any worse king I'm chopping against, and she checks it over to me. Aw man, this is a bummer spot. After having such a great hand on the flop, obviously I have a boat, kings full of threes. It really downgraded my hand because now I'm chopping against all these hands. Like you can see, king, queen of diamonds, it's a chop, 50-50. So how do we get the most amount of value when she doesn't have a king in her hand, when she has queens, jacks, tens, maybe a flush draw? How do we get the most amount of value? I think it's actually to check here and then pick off bluffs on the river, or go for a value bet on the river and maybe she'd call me with a worse hand. For that reason, I decided to check back on the turn, and we are off to the river, which comes the deuce of hearts. The Queen of Felt does not waste any time before betting out for $700, and obviously I'm going to get it in here. If she has a hand like pocket deuces, maybe a 3, maybe tens, jacks, or queens could maybe call a raise. That'd be a little ambitious, but I can't just be flat calling with my boat. Unless she has pocket threes, I have the best hand half the time. So I decided to raise it all in. She checks her cards, snap calls, and we're going to chop up that pot. A little anticlimactic, but at least we are not losing it. All right, another premium hand for me. I decided to raise it up from the +1 position with the bullets to $40. OFC decides to put in the call for the VPIP. Sam Clark decides to defend the third blind as well with his 10-9 off. We are going 3 ways to a flop, which comes monotone spades, 10-8-6, all spades. When the action checks over to me, I have the ace of spades in my hand. I don't really want to bloat the pot just yet, because if we get all the money in here on the flop, they're going to have all the better hands. 6s, 8s, 10s. They could even have a hand like 10-8 or 6-8. So for that reason, I want to check here. Another spade rolls in and I have the nuts. Stuff like that. So I decide to check behind, bringing in the Queen of Hearts on the turn. My check here allows Sam to go for a bet of $100. You can see that he has a pretty small percentage chance to win this hand. I'm going to win it 3 out of every 4 times. Could be raising here now and trying to get value from worse. Instead, I just put in the call and we are off to the river, heads up, which comes the King of Hearts. After a little bit of thinking, Sam decides to check it over to me. Now I think I need to go for a small value bet here of around $100 to $200. But instead, in the moment, I decide to check behind. My logic is here, I didn't want to bet and get raised and then be in a tough spot where I'm up against a bluff or the nuts. I guess that's kind of a weak way of looking at it, so for that reason, I like going for a small bet and then picking off a lot of bluffs that raise. Instead, I check behind, he turns over his pair of tens, and we are going to scoop down that $325 pot. All right, another beautiful hand for us. I look down at King, Queen of Spades from the small blind. You can see there's a heavy bit amount of action ahead of us here when Sam Clark decides to raise it up to $250 with 7-9 of spades. Out of the small blind, I really just want to be 3-betting or folding. I say that because I do neither, and I decide just to put in the call. Really not a great decision because it's going to bring in a lot of other players, and when you bring in a lot of other players, it reduces your equity in the hand. You can see here that a 3-bet to like $700 to $900 obviously would have got the job done. I'd take down the pot, win myself like $300. Instead, by putting in the call, we're going to go 4 ways to a flop, which comes gin for us though. That all goes out the window. When it comes Jack 10-9, bang, we flop the straight. This is obviously a dream board for us, having the king high straight. The nuts on the board, there's 2 hearts out there, so I'm going to go for a check raise. I decide to check, and the action checks over to Mr. Regis. Now instead of checking behind, luckily he does have top pair with a gutter to the straight, and he bets out for $450. Now here, I'm obviously going to be coming in for a raise. There's 2 hearts out there. There's a lot of pair plus straight draw ideas. If someone has a set, we want to get it in before another heart comes and scares them off. So for that reason, I decide to raise it up to a cool $1,000. Sam pretty easily gets out of the way with his pair of 9s. Mr. Regis, though, he can't get out of the way. He has a jack and a straight draw. He puts in the additional $550, and we are going off to the turn, which is no help to him. It comes the 3 of spades. I'm out of position against Mr. Regis. He has around $1,100 in his stack. 3K in the middle, just got to get it in, and I decided to rip it in for $1,100. He's getting a great price to call. I expect him to put in the money pretty much always, except for this time. He folds. Wow, what a great read by him. I guess my line was super strong, but I'm not complaining. I take in $1,800 worth of profit. Just like that, another hand coming my way. All right, we don't just get premiums. I decided to raise it up to $75 with 10-8 of diamonds. I'm in the +1 position, and you can see OFC decides to put in the call with pocket 6s, bringing in Mr. Regis as well with the 7-9 off. We're off to a flop which comes Ace King 5 all spades, and the action checks over to me. In multi-way pots, you want to do a lot of checking. Additionally, when there's all spades, all hearts, something monotone on the flop, you also want to be doing a lot of checking. And I really have no connectivity on this board with my exact hand. Sure, my range is going to absolutely smash this flop, but being multi-way, I decided to play it passively and start with a check. We see another black card, the 9 of clubs peels off on the turn. Now when the action checks to me for a second time, that's a lot of weakness out of both players. I decide to take a stab for $100. And Mr. Regis, he's going to get a little bit sticky here with his pair of 9s. He's going nowhere. He puts in the call. We're off to the river in a nearly $500 pot, which comes with 6 of spades. When Regis checks it over to me for a third time, I think it's likely he has a weak pair in his hand. Now we have to think about who has the better spades in their hand, given the pre-flop action. I 3-bet. He just put in the call. I'm going to have way more of the queen, jack, 10 of spades in my hand. So for that reason, and given the fact that I have 10 high, got to be going for a bet. And luckily I find it here and I bet out small for $175. Pretty much the exact sizing that I would choose with the queen, jack, or 10 of spades. And luckily I did bet there. Mr. Regis folds the best hand. 2 red cards. How could he have known that he was good? But he was in fact, but I'm getting rewarded with that $615 pot. Now if you're not from Texas, I'll get you up to speed. There's a lot of bomb pots of the 4-card variety. In this one here, you can see I have the check mark. I'm going to be taking down a $450 one with the ace high flush. It's a fun way to spice up the action, and also a portion of the pot will go to someone like the commentators, the floor staff, the janitor. Just a really nice way to give back to the card room that you're playing in. Right, in this next hand we see Jeremy opens it up to $75 in the +1. The Queen of Felt comes in for a standard 3-bet to $150. I say standard, but it's actually not really. It's a min raise to $150. Interesting. Sam decides to put in the flat call with 3 deuce offsuit. That brings in Regis, and the action's now on me. Now here a 4-bet might actually get the job done. I think Jeremy would probably be the only one who could put in a call here, but I decided to flat call with a 7-8 of hearts, and we are going extremely multi-way, or should I say a Texas heads up here, 6 ways to the flop. We see a flop which comes 5, 6, 7 with 1 heart. The action checks over to me, and I decide to take up the betting lead. I have top pair, a straight draw. Even if someone raises, I'm not getting away from my hand. I decide to bet out for $225. Additionally to top pair, I'd also be doing this with hands like 2 pair, 7-6, 5-6. Also my sets like 5, 6s, and 7s. Additionally, I could be doing this with 3, 4, and 8, 9. So yeah, a lot of hands would be betting out into the field here. And let's see what Jeremy decides to do with his overpair. Pocket 10s decides to go for the min click to $500. It's especially strong given the fact there's 4 other players in the hand. So yeah, I'm obviously calling here with my pair plus straight draw, but if he barrels turn and river, might have to get away from it. It's an interesting spot when you're just min clicking it back on the flop. Mr. Regis decides to get out of the way with his gutter to the straight, and like I said, I'm going nowhere with my pair plus straight draw. I put in the call, and let's see a turn. The turn card's a bad one and a good one at the same time. I say bad because it pairs the board. Now I'm drawing dead against any hand like 5, 7, 6s, or maybe a hand like 5, 6 I'm drawing dead against as well. However, it's a good card because I do have a straight flush draw now. Any 9 or 4 of hearts would give me the elusive straight flush. I haven't had one in like over 6 months. And yeah, it'd be pretty cool to get another one here live on stream. But given the fact that I was raised on the turn, I'm not going to bet out into Jeremy. I decide to start with the check. Jeremy has $1,700 in his stack, and there's around $2,000 in the middle. It's a nearly pot-sized jam, and he makes it $1,700 going into the middle with his overpair. Man, this is a tough spot. When he min raises the flop into 5 other opponents and then decides to jam the turn, it's such a narrow range. Not many players in these stakes of games are really going to be doing this with many bluffs, so I got to think about what are his value hands. You could have the boats, you could have the straights, you could have the 2 pairs. I'm just not putting him on 10s pre because he decided to call the 3-bet from the Queen of Felt, if you guys remember that pre-flop. So yeah, not really putting him on too many overpairs. If I knew he had 10s here, I'd obviously put in the snap call. But against his jam, it's so much strength, and I may not even be live against any of my 9 or 4 outs that aren't a heart, because he could have a boat already. So for that reason, and not sure if all of my outs are clean, I decide to make a fold. You can see I was still a dog in this hand. He's going to win this 2 out of every 3 times, so it's actually a pretty good fold. He's giving me just around the right odds to call. But yeah, I make the fold, and it's a good one. I end up checking the card that would have came out, and it was no help to me, and I ended up saving $1,700 in that last hand. Alright guys, concluding this live stream here, a bunch of fun. Got into that for 2K, topped up an additional 2K, out for 65.15, so a profit of 25.15 and around 3.5 hours of play there. If you combine that with my win from last night from the Texas Card House live stream, I am up a total of 27.90 in those 2 streams. Pretty big games and pretty decent results, holding my own within a very small sample size of 8 hours, but we are up $348 an hour. Let's go. Gonna get some ramen tonight to celebrate. The other thing I wanted to touch upon is just a little more of my personal life. So obviously I moved to Dallas. I decided to do 6 months, and for those 6 months I would like to play at one of the 2 casinos that you saw me play in tonight. The ball is in their court. I've given them my idea of what we can do for the next 6 months, both TCH and Poker House. So as of right now, I am waiting to hear back who has the best proposal of what we can do. We can do meetup games, we can do live streams, I can curate fun Wolfgang Poker type stuff and work with one of these brands. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We're waiting to hear back from them and just see what the future entails. But for right now, we're pretty stoked to kick off the 6-month journey with a nearly $3,000 profit in 2 days. Definitely feels great. And I want to say thank you to all of you guys for supporting the vlog and putting me in a position to play bigger games, and just all the nice comments. There are a few haters out there, but we wouldn't have as large of a fan base without a few haters. So thank you very much. A lot of fun content coming up. I'm going to play a lot more tournaments, hanging out with all of my vlogger friends. Good luck on the felt, you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace. What's up, you guys? Wolfgang here. I'm here in Dallas at TCH, but on April 20th and 21st, I'm heading all the way down to Houston. That's right, they just opened up a new card room there, and I'm gonna come out to meet a bunch of you guys. The 20th is gonna be a live stream on their YouTube channel, TCH Live, and that's gonna be a 5:10. You guys are gonna wanna watch that. On the 21st, I'm hosting a meetup game from 7 p.m. to midnight. Anyone can make the vlog, and who knows, I might put a bang sticker on you if I'm lucky, not you. I'll see you guys there. Thanks for watching to the end of my video. Click my head below to subscribe and stay in the loop. See you next time.